A local doctor accused of sexually assaulting patients. He's worked at several hospitals and clinics around our region over the last decade and is still practicing here in Northwest Arkansas. In this KNWA investigation, we break down the claims brought against Dr. Adam Moss.
I feel I was touched in an indecent way.
Thyroid issues led this woman to Dr. Adam Moss in March of 2021. An endocrinologist and partner with Main Street Medical Associates in Cave Springs.
It was gut-wrenching, disgusting.
She's referring to an exam he conducted on her that she says violated her. It was her first time seeing this type of specialist, and she took her concerns to Facebook.
There were quite a few women that messaged me stating that this also happened to them.
Her post prompted 2 other women to come forward with what they say happened at the hands of Dr. Moss. All 3 complained to the Arkansas State Medical Board. One said she saw him in 2011 for hormone-related issues when he worked at Mercy Hospital in Rogers, writing, quote, "He put his hand up my shirt, moved my bra away from my breast, and fondled them." Another said during her 2010 appointment, he didn't warn her he was going to expose her breasts. These complaints, not the first to be filed against Moss with the State Medical Board.
This should have stopped 15 years ago.
A woman came forward in 2007 saying Dr. Moss inappropriately examined her while practicing at Lowell Medical Center. She filed a police report and formal complaint with the State Medical Board. Medical board members reviewed her claim in 2008, but did not discipline Moss, ruling the complaint, quote, did not rise to the level of gross negligence or ignorant malpractice, which is required for disciplinary action to be taken under the Arkansas Medical Practices Act. But in August 2021, after 3 additional complaints, the medical board did suspend his license, saying the claims against him make him a danger to the public. During his suspension, another 3 women came forward, bringing the total formal complaints against Dr. Moss to 7. Moss underwent 6 weeks of treatment at a professional renewal center, then appeared before the board on December 2nd, 2021. In that meeting, he explained why he felt his exams were misinterpreted.
I think there's a degree with which no matter what I would have explained to them, it was outside of what their expectations were.
But medical board chair Dr. Sylvia Simon questioned the medical necessity of those exams since they weren't in the patient's charts.
And if they were medically appropriate exams and then you do not include the results of that exam, then to us as peers reviewing that, it makes us wonder why you did an exam that you didn't think you needed to document results of.
The medical director of the Arkansas Medical Foundation, Dr. Bradley Diner, says Moss's actions can be attributed to a lack of boundaries.
The important issue here really was that though his contact with female patients may have been inappropriate, it was not for sexual gratification.
Dr. Diner says the issue can be remedied through a 5-year monitoring contract Moss entered into with the Medical Foundation, in addition to the rehabilitation he's already received.
I definitely have. I've learned a lot through the process. I've spent the last 18 years caring for patients, and none of my actions in managing these patients were outside of medical necessity.
Despite 2 voting against, the board reinstated Moss's license, allowing him to practice once again.
We felt we were done wrong in the way his license was given back.
It's an outcome the women strongly feel would have been different had they been able to share what they say Moss did to them in front of the board, which is why this victim says she's making herself heard now.
Victimizing women because you hold a medical license is wrong. Everyone deserves respect. Patients trust you to treat them the way they should be treated.
As part of the 5-year monitoring contract, Dr. Moss has several stipulations he must follow now that he's allowed to practice once again. He must provide a physical exam consent form to be signed by all new and existing patients, meet with a mentor who provides monthly reports to the medical board, take part in continued education, submit to quarterly polygraphs, among other requirements. Now, you must know many of Moss's victims have since taken their complaints to local law enforcement. Both the Cave Springs and Johnson police departments confirm they have criminal investigations into Dr. Moss, which have since been turned over to the prosecutor. Dr. Moss's attorney declined a request to comment on this story. In a KNWA news update, a local doctor accused of sexually assaulting patients is closing his practice in Cave Springs.
Dr. Moss have decided to close the practice.
Dr. Adam Moss is an endocrinologist and partner with Main Street Medical Associates in Cave Springs. Since 2007, at least 7 women have filed formal complaints against him with the Arkansas State Medical Board, claiming he touched them inappropriately during medical exams. The medical board did revoke Moss's license in 2021, but voted to reinstate it just a few months later with conditions. Both Washington County and Benton County have active criminal investigations into Moss, which are still underway. KNWA talked with a woman who says Dr. Moss touched her inappropriately. You can hear her story on knwa.com. There you'll also find the conditions Moss has to follow to continue practicing. The Cave Springs doctor is facing a felony sex assault charge. Today, Cave Springs police arrested this man, Dr. Adam Moss, an endocrinologist, on 1 count of sexual assault in the 2nd degree. We spoke with the prosecutor who brought the charge against Dr. Moss and a woman who says she was victimized by him. From running a doctor's office to sitting in a jail cell, Dr. Adam Moss now behind bars. The endocrinologist and partner with Main Street Medical Associates in Cave Springs was arrested by Cave Springs police Tuesday on 2nd-degree sexual assault, a Class B felony.
Any case we arrest and prosecute, we believe that the evidence supports that charge, that we have proof beyond a reasonable doubt. That is the case here as well.
Benton County Prosecuting Attorney Nathan Smith says his office has spoken with at least 12 women who say Moss inappropriately touched them while conducting medical exams.
We've looked at documentary evidence, personnel records, things like that, as well as talking to multiple other women who have come forward to tell their stories as well.
In reviewing medical records, prosecutors found Moss had not documented the breast exams he performed on the patients who'd come forward.
I hope that the trauma stops here and no other women are assaulted.
This woman is one of 7 who filed formal complaints against Dr. Moss with the Arkansas State Medical Board, with claims dating all the way back to 2007.
This is something that some of us has been fighting for 15 years.
Board members suspended his license in August 2021, but reinstated it just a few months later in December.
When his license is taken away, that's when we feel that justice was served.
Now that Moss has been arrested, this woman feels that victims' voices are finally being heard.
The mission of our office is to fight for justice in every case, to speak for victims, and we're going to do that in this case as well.
If convicted, Smith says Moss faces between 5 to 20 years in prison.
People have to understand how many women's lives that have been torn apart by this injustice. We will live with this trauma forever.
His accusers ready to take the stand if the case against Moss goes before a jury, in hopes they'll impose the maximum sentence.
Arrest isn't enough. We're just going to have to fight harder.
Smith says Moss will remain in the Benton County Jail until he faces a judge tomorrow who will decide if he gets bond. Now, Washington County does also have an open criminal investigation into Dr. Moss. Prosecutor Matt Duritz says his office will likely have a decision on whether to bring charges against him by the end of the week. We have reached out to Dr. Moss's attorney, who's declined to comment on his behalf. Now, we have done extensive reporting on the allegations into Dr. Moss. Just last Wednesday, we found out he closed his Cave Springs practice. You can read that story as well as hear more from his victims over on our website, knwa.com. Dr. Adam Moss was arrested, as you know, on a felony sex assault charge yesterday by Cave Springs police. He spent the night in the Benton County Jail and was released on a $50,000 bond today. Moss is an endocrinologist and partner with Main Street Medical Associates in Cave Springs. NWA recently learned that practice will close at the end of June. In their investigation into Moss, Benton County prosecutors spoke with a total of 12 women who accused him of inappropriately touching them while he conducted medical exams. Moss's license had been suspended by the Arkansas State Medical Board in 2021 after 7 formal complaints were lodged against the doctor. Board members ultimately decided to reinstate his license later that year. Prior to his arrest yesterday, he was scheduled to appear before the board today. The board acknowledged it had received a letter from Moss's attorney stating that he'd been arrested and was unable to make today's hearing.
I mean, we don't have a conviction, ma'am. And I don't think we're required to have a conviction for it. You know, are these based on the same accusations?
It's the same accusations that we had discussed before.
The board has requested more information on Moss's arrest and is expected to discuss his status as a licensed doctor during tomorrow's board meeting. We encourage you to head to our website, knwa.com, where you'll find our extensive investigation into Moss, including reaction from women who claim to have been victimized by him. A Northwest Arkansas doctor accused of inappropriately examining his patients tells a judge he's not guilty. 51-year-old Dr. Adam Moss appeared in Washington County Court today. He pleaded not guilty to 2 counts of second-degree sexual assault. He has not yet entered into a plea in Benton County, where he's facing the same charge. Between the 2 counties, at least 12 women allege Dr. Moss touched them in an inappropriate manner during medical exams. Moss was the endocrinologist and partner with the now closed Main Street Medical Associates in Cave Springs. In August 2021, Moss's license was suspended by the Arkansas State Medical Board after 7 formal complaints were lodged against the doctor. Board members ultimately voted to reinstate his license, allowing him to once again practice in December 2021. We have a lot of coverage about these allegations against Dr. Moss, and you can read the full stories against him over on knwa.com. Dr. Adam Moss appeared before the Arkansas State Medical Board today. Take a look at your screen. This is Dr. Moss, the endocrinologist who most recently practiced in Cave Springs, has pleaded not guilty to 3 sexual assault charges against him in Benton County and 2 in Washington County. While before the board members today, Moss talked about how he closed his practice in Cave Springs on June 30th, even though his license is still active, which technically means he is allowed to continue seeing patients. He went on to say he's considering opening a virtual practice to care for patients he's accumulated in Northwest Arkansas over the last 20 years.
Table that for the month of July, just kind of recovering from the trauma of everything that happened, you know, in June.
When asked by the board's chair if he had any new victims come forward against him, Moss answered no, and that it was the same 7 women who had previously filed formal complaints against him with the state medical board. According to Benton County prosecutors, they've spoken with a total of 12 women who allege Moss touched them inappropriately, with their claims dating all the way back to 2007. Moss is due in court in Benton County on September 6th and in Washington County on the 18th of October.